everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. The live beam has initialized. My name is Kerry Holzman. Well, that's what the screen said. Thank you so much for joining me. Today it is Friday, the 10th of February, 2023. I'm your host, Kerry Holzman, and today another mini PC. Now, after a while, you might say, well, haven't you shown us enough mini PCs? Well, this one deserves a special look because many of us out there cannot afford many of the offerings that are out there in the mini PC space. But this one, the one I'm going to show you today, well, I've talked to the people who manufacture it, in this case, the folks over at Ace Magician and this other brand they have here called KAMRUI, have put together a very inexpensive all-in-one, well, it's not all-in-one in the sense that you still need a keyboard, mouse, and monitor. However, you'll be hard-pressed to find a better deal on the market today. So what is it? Well, it's essentially made up of Intel's latest answer to Pentium and Celeron. Intel has said, you know what, enough with the Pentium and the Celeron, we need to take another approach. And so they have this series of CPUs that begin with the letter N like Nancy. And it's using just the E cores only, 12th gen, you know, and Intel has the performance cores and the efficiency cores. These are the efficiency cores only, so it's only like 15 watts. You get 4 cores, 4 of the efficiency cores, Windows 11 Pro, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig solid state drive, and they want like $300 for it, except right now at Amazon here in the US, there's a little box you can check for a coupon, and then when you go to proceed to checkout here at Amazon in the US, it'll ask you as you're going through the checkout process if you have a discount code. Put in Kerry Holzman, all is one word, no spaces. This goes under $200 with the potential for same-day delivery. And of course, you always have the typical 30 days to return via Amazon if you don't like it for any reason. Now, is this something that you would play Fortnite on? No. This is slightly more money, and in some cases, cheaper than some of the veteran PCs that are off lease that we've been giving away here. And those veteran PCs only have a few years of life left in them because they're not Windows 11 compatible, meaning when October 14th of 2025 rolls around, then support for Windows 10 ends officially. And so while you could probably get away with riding out the rest of 2025, certainly when 2026 occurs, your risk factor of continuing to stubbornly use that on the internet, Windows 10, it likely puts your data and your identity at risk. So for under $200, you can get a full PC that's 12th gen, already comes with Windows 11 Pro installed. And what I've done for you is, instead of running through all the Windows updates, which can be quite time consuming, I decided, since we've done that often enough, I hope the lesson's been conveyed that anytime you get a new computer, new tablet, new smartphone, whatever it is, first thing you should do is visit the updates and make sure you have the latest operating system installed, because you are getting on the internet with it, and that internet is a more dangerous place every day. And the bad guys love it when you can't be bothered to update your operating system on your tablet, your smartphone, your laptop, your desktop, because you make their life so much easier to steal from you. And in many cases, you'll never even know it happened. It's like a really good pickpocket. You won't realize your wallet's missing until you do. And then you'll wonder, how long has it been gone? And that's how good viruses work. Good viruses don't do something to your computer to make it act up. A good virus, one that's well written, you'll never know you have until one day you're checking your credit, or in many cases, people are applying for something, applying for credit, whether it's a credit card or they're buying a car, and comes, you know, the information comes back as declined. And people are like, why would it be declined? I have great credit. I don't have anything late. Come to find out, for months or even longer than a year, someone had been opening credit up in your name with your stolen identity from a virus that's installed and maybe still running on your machine. Now look, I'm not here to make you paranoid. I'm not here to do any fear mongering, but I'm telling you this happens, and it's happening more now than ever before, and it's likely going to continue until people step up to protect themselves. Now, the other great thing is you treat yourself to a nice modern machine that's under warranty and will have many years of life in it. Statistically speaking, the Intel NUC that I first built for the very first time was in April of 2013, and only recently did I retire that. And the only reason I retired it was because since the pandemic, the person that uses that original i3 NUC is now working remotely and has been for the last 2 years. It was always just sort of a novelty or a thing to pay bills on and Facebook, you know, just for fun. But now it's become required for work. And things were taking longer to load as more and more things got loaded onto the system that it was never designed to run. So VPN software and VoIP software and all these other things, remote access software, that the machine, while it was accomplishing the task, it was a little sluggish. It wasn't as responsive. And after 8 or 9 years, it was time to replace it, even though it still works perfectly. So now there's a much faster NUC in its place, and I will expect the same 8 or 9 years out of that one, and likely will not need to upgrade that other than just because it's been time, not because of a part failure. So that original Intel NUC, that i3, never had a repair. It's the same original RAM, same original storage, same original CPU fan, all of it's all original parts. The most I've ever done is opened it a couple times to blow the dust out of it, and even there wasn't much dust. So I'm very, very satisfied with the quality of these mini PCs now, regardless of the manufacturer. So this KAMRUI, this is a new brand for me, and I cannot believe what a great deal this is. But here's the thing. The deal is only good for 5 days. It started today, the 10th of February, 2023, and the coupon code Carrie Holzman at checkout at Amazon here in the US, that discount ends at the end of the day, Wednesday, on the 15th of February. So 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on February 15th, that Carrie Holzman discount code is gone forever. But it's still a good price regardless, but it's an amazing price. And I hope you guys will consider this, because for a machine that you can use as a home theater PC, for a machine that you could use for the kids, for if any kids are doing remote learning, or is a fully functional Windows 11 Pro computer. Let me go ahead. I've already updated and I've taken it out of the box yesterday, did all the Windows updates, and then carefully put it back in the box the way it was, so we can emulate pretty much a first-time unboxing. All right, so you can see the way it is in the box. So let's get Camera Girl out here, and we'll grab some close-ups. And while she's getting ready for that, I'll say hello and thank you to all of my loyal viewers out there. Chris Garrett, who has now been a member for 2 months, says good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chris. And Matthew Burton has now been a member for 9 months. That's right back since the beginning. That's so awesome. Thank you guys so much. He says good afternoon and happy Friday. And of course, all our love and shout out to our good friend Buster out in Scotland, who sent an Amazon gift card earlier today and continues this amazing support here of the channel. And if you ever see Peter Laycock in the chat room, be sure and show him love. I know he's sick right now. I think he's battling COVID, unfortunately, but I don't think it's kicking his butt. I think he's just not feeling too well. So hopefully he'll get through that and sooner rather than later and get back to his regular old self. In the meantime, everybody else in the chat, from Elish Tepej, Jason Wyrick, and Luke Greenia, Paul Garrett, Thomas Mac T, and Vern Mahoney, as well as Patrick Rousseau, Chris Johnson, Garfield Rupe, welcome. welcome all. I'm not going to go through everybody's name, but thank you guys for hanging out with us. And of course, Thomas back in stow as well. Let's go ahead and move over to the portable camera. Oh, $2 just comes in from Super Chat from Planet Cryos, who says, "Hey you." Thank you, Planet Cryos. Always good to see you, my friend. And let me find my close-up camera here in OBS. It should be, it's this camera right here. All right, come on over and let's see what's in here. So it's a pretty generic looking box, and I'm okay with that. It's not like I'm going to save the box anyway. And inside, you have what appears to be like any other standard mini PC. I like that, unlike the previous model that had the button in the corner, I kept, anytime I would pick up the machine, I kept accidentally pushing the button. So I like that the button's no longer on the top, but rather on the side. But it's not on the back, it's on the side. So look at how many ports this thing has. Because if that's the side, then what's the back look like? Now you can see we've got 2 HDMI outputs, plus we can run a video out through the, is it a USB Type-C over here? Let's see, that's the front. That will light up when we give it power. Oh, there's a VGA port on the other side. So yes, you can use this VGA port and those 2 HDMI ports all at the same time. Actually have 3 monitors side by side on this. That's crazy. There's your power connector, USB, gigabit Ethernet. It's got Wi-Fi. This is your headset jack, right, where you can plug in a microphone or headphones, or ideally a headset that is both headphones and microphone. You've got a Kensington lock place here if you want to lock this down, like in a business where you don't want somebody walking off with it. Taking another look at the side, a couple more USBs. USB 3s here with the USB 2 there. There's our power button. And we're going to get into exactly what it comes with. If we can get a close-up on that QR code, people can actually point your phone at this QR code, and your phone should open up the website to learn more about it. This is a crazy, crazy good limited time deal. I cannot emphasize time is of the essence on this deal. What a bargain. I can't believe how cheap this is. All right, the rest of the box, we've got our documentation. We've got a mounting bracket here. You can mount this on the back of your monitor, for example. And the screws will be for, it looks like you can put a 2.5-inch drive inside if you wanted to. And then we have a traditional power cable here. Now the power cable does not have the name KAMRUI on it, so I would probably get a label maker so I don't confuse this in the future with other power adapters I have. And then there's a short HDMI cable included. That's if you were to mount the mini PC on the back of a monitor, you don't want a 6-foot long HDMI cable. And that's all, that's it. That's everything you need. Nothing you don't. And the great thing about the bracket is it may not be something you have any interest in today, but knowing that it's an option, just keep it together in the box and you'll always know where you can find it, and you can mount that up out of the way. One of the things I noticed with this unit when I turned it on the other day is it's completely dead silent. I've never heard a peep out of it, nothing. And I am very curious. Wait a minute, there's a switch on here. I didn't notice this switch before. What does this do? So I'm looking at this. I don't know what this is. It doesn't seem to move. I wonder if this was a place for a potential USB port to go. Well now, you know, I don't do this very often, but I'm going to pull the documentation out and see what it says about it, whatever the heck that part is right there. What does this say? It Let's look together. So there's the VESA mount bracket we talked about. Mini PC copper fixing screw. Not sure what that is. So you see you've got directions in English, and then we've got it here in what appears to be German. Oh, it's more of the same, just other languages. It does have Wi-Fi. It also has Bluetooth. Boy, this is just the same thing over and over again in multiple languages. So that's Spanish. This is maybe Cantonese or what's the other one? I forget. Mandarin. Not sure which one it is. Dutch. This is Netherlands. Thought that was German. So yeah, so apparently the only English part of this manual is pages 1 through 3. The rest of these pages are just the same thing written over and over again in different languages. So there's not a whole lot of information offered here. However, let's go ahead and turn it on and see how it runs. And we'll start by giving it some power. I'll plug it into the capture card. And we'll hook this keyboard and mouse combo up to it and plug it into internet. Now, when I did fire this up, it did not require me to create a Microsoft account. This is Windows 11 Pro. And I had plugged it into the internet without thinking, and I thought, uh-oh, well, let's see what happens. And sure enough, it just fired up, said, who's going to use this computer? I typed in the word user. It said, what do you want for a password? I left it blank, and that's all it was done. I mean, it didn't require me to skip around with, going into a command prompt and running the bypass NRO option, which is very welcome. Now, I will say this power cord is quite short. So you may need to buy a short extension cable if you're going to run this a distance from the power plug. But it's going to be hard to complain about anything at this price point. That's a crazy, crazy price point. So we've got our internet plugged in, HDMI, power, and now I just want to plug in a keyboard and a mouse and we can fire this bad boy up. So look, this is 4 cores, no hyper-threading, and they're the efficiency cores. That means this sips power. It's very easy on the power. If you're somebody who's very ecologically minded, if you're somebody who just simply wants to save money and you want a machine to do pretty much anything but play games. Sure, you could play solitaire. There's probably some games that'll play at very low resolutions, but that's not what it's designed for. Like I said, home theater PC, you could do some video editing on this. You could pretty much do anything else, from paying bills online, getting on your favorite social media sites, staying connected. It's more than enough power, and it should last you many, many years and be not reach a point of feeling slow, I would imagine, unless your needs change and you start putting software on this, like, I don't know, video editing. It'll do it, but it's going to be slow. If your needs don't change, if what you want is a nice, reliable machine, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, I don't think this can be beat for the price. After October the 15th, after February the 15th, that's 5 days from today, the sale is over, and I think it'll go to $250, between $250 and $280. Still a bargain, in my opinion. All right, let me switch over now. We'll give Camera Girl a break here, and we're going to go over to, well, first of all, let me go to camera 1 for a moment. Let me turn off the close-up camera. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I'm going to put myself in a corner so we can kind of see both me and this desktop at the same time. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to reboot it so you get an idea of just how fast this thing, I don't want you to get immediately turned off by the fact that this is just E-cores. Oh, wrong one, Carrie. Bear with me for a second. I just made the wrong screen big. Let's go to this one. All right, and I'm going to go over here. There's my mouse. Let's do a restart. Let's see how long this takes to restart. Go. So now you can take a look at how many seconds are passing by as the video that you're watching right now shows a little time graph on how much you see the seconds tick by. And let's see just how fast this boots in real time. Or restarts in real time anyway. We're almost there. That's crazy, right? $200? Are you kidding me? All right, now let's look at, let's right click on the start menu and let's go to System. Right here. Let's take a look at some of the specifications here. The Intel N95, 1.7 gigahertz. It does go faster than this. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, of which 15.8 gig is usable because the onboard video needs some RAM. So anytime you're using onboard video, it steals some of your system memory. Or they like to say it shares it, but you know what? 16 gigs, perfect minimum for Windows 11 Pro. We've got all the updates installed. The operating system is activated, which I didn't do anything about. It just ran through the normal process of setting it up, and it just was automatically activated. I did not have to enter any codes. I did not have to enter a Microsoft account. As for storage, I'm not sure if it's NVMe or SATA. We can take a look at that by me loading my utilities flash drive. So let me plug that in over here. I love these USB ports on the side. I love that the front of this unit is smooth and only has an LED, so you're not plugging things in right in front like the original Intel NUC that I had. It also has way more USB ports. I think the Intel NUC that I built back in 2013 only had 2 USB ports. Or I think it had 3. This, on the other hand, we've got 3 just on the side. And then 1 in the back, so we've got 4. Plus we can hook up to 2 HDMI monitors and a VGA monitor, or any one of the 3, any 2 of the 3, or all 3 of the 3, all at the same time. So it's very, very flexible in how you want to use it. So now if I go over here to my utilities, and we go to, here we go, my utilities flash drive. I'm going to put VLC on here, just the way I do on all my computers that I build for clients. We'll go ahead and install that, and then we'll grab the latest version of Crystal Disk Info and Crystal Disk Mark. And let's take a look at what the solid state drive is that's in here. So that's Crystal Disk Mark. This is Crystal Disk Info. So let it read the info on the installed solid state drive, and let's see what it comes back as. So it's coming back as a CoWin. I've never heard of it. 512 gig SATA. So it's not NVMe. So we're probably going to see about 550 megabytes per second on this, which saturates the SATA bus. So we'll go ahead and run that test. And then while that's running, let me go back over to the chat, see if you guys have any questions for me. Jamie McGregor has now been a member for 9 months. Right on, Jamie. Thank you so much for being a part of this community and supporting the channel. Lou Greenia says that toggle, that switch I saw, is for opening the lid. Oh, to get inside of it? Oh, that's pretty interesting. I'll play with that a little bit more later. Let me just go ahead and run these benchmarks. Now, the numbers on that is a far cry from 550. We're at 187.68 as the maximum throughput speed, which is, boy, let me make sure I'm on the C drive and I'm not testing the flash drive, because that's about how fast the flash drive runs. Yeah, there's my problem. I'm testing the flash drive. That's not the first time I've done that. It's a great speed for a flash drive, but we're going to see much better speed on the internal hard drive. So let's go to the C drive here and let's run this test again. I'm expecting around 550, both on the sequential reads and the sequential writes. But yes, I love the SanDisk Extreme Pro flash drives, and that's why. They're incredibly fast, and when I say fast, I mean sustainably fast. I see a lot of flash drives, they'll hit 1,000 megabytes a second, but after just a minute or two of that, they gradually slow down and get slower and slower. I'd much rather have a consistent transfer speed, and SanDisk Extreme Pro line of flash drives I just haven't met anything as good as that, and that's primarily the flash drive I use mostly, more than any other. I have a lot of them. Can't speak highly enough about them. And for those of you who are not aware, SanDisk is owned by Western Digital. All right, so these numbers are more in line with what I was expecting. Now, inevitably, what ends up happening is we end up with a few viewers that will ask questions that don't really take into consideration what the cost is. And I'm not sure why people might say, hey, is that 4K? You know what? I'm not sure. We can check and see if it'll support 4K. They might say, will the M.2 slot support NVMe? This isn't really designed to be something you're going to open up and manipulate around. If you're that kind of person, you're much better off buying a bare bones machine and building it up the way you want. When you're looking, when your primary focus is getting that price down, then the way you get the price down is through making some sacrifices, and sacrifices in upgradeability, sacrifices in, you know, how much storage it can hold, or what kind of storage, or how much RAM, or whether or not the RAM is soldered in. It's my understanding the RAM is not soldered in, but we'll take the lid off of it and we'll look, and we can try to plug an NVMe drive in just to see what'll happen. But if this was sold as is with no possible upgrade, it's a bargain. Now, if you can do upgrades on top of that, that's just a crazy good deal. And I wouldn't expect it. Like, I'll be genuinely surprised if there's much we can do to upgrade this at this price point. The industry, the computer industry, for the most part, is you get what you pay for, except when we talk about enthusiast level equipment, a lot of RGB type stuff, or super high-end enthusiast level CPUs, or high-end fast RAM. These are for the elitists. These are for the very minimal percentage of computer owners that tend to make up the maximum number of people making videos and writing articles. It's these extremists that are typically the source that provide information at that level. So what about the other 95 or 97% of computer owners who are going to YouTube, or they're going to a website to learn about what's practical? It's very easy to be misled and to think that the level of importance that these enthusiasts place on RAM speed or temperature it doesn't represent normal everyday computer users. So there's sort of a misinformation that gets conveyed. It's very frustrating for me to deal with, where the assumption or the inference is that these things are something regular folks should worry about. The fact of the matter is, I have very rarely ever fixed a computer that had a heat problem. But there's this obsession with people who are so brainwashed by this information that it doesn't apply to them. I see people that'll run Prime 95 on their computer, cause their computer to overheat, and then email me and ask me how to fix it. And my answer is, don't run Prime 95 on it. If your computer is running when you're normally using it and you're not having heat problems, you don't have a problem to fix. So people will spend money based on the information they're getting from YouTube and other typical enthusiasts that emphasize the importance of overspending and overkill that will make, in most cases, no difference other than to the end user's wallet. So I want you to bear in mind, if you're an enthusiast, the internet's a great place for information that you would find helpful. But if you're a regular user, and let's face it, most computer owners, well over 97% of all computer owners, are just regular users. There's no reason for you to suddenly have fear or anxiety about your computer overheating. It very rarely has ever been an issue for any ordinary user. I've been in this career over 30 years. Very rarely has heat been a problem. Typically, if I see a heat-related problem, it's because somebody put an all-in-one cooler in, and they didn't need the all-in-one cooler. They said, oh, well, I heard it was better than an air cooler. They spent more for it, and where an air cooler would last you the entire life of the computer, the liquid coolers typically die within 4 to 6 years and need to be replaced for various reasons. Pumps die, the fluid gets contaminated, it loses efficacy, sometimes it sort of evaporates away, and it's just an enthusiast level of cooling typically used on an enthusiast level of processor as well as enthusiast overclocking. None of these apply to 97% of all computer owners in the world, and yet this content makes up 97% of all content online. So it's completely flipped. So I want you to be aware of it so you understand what applies to you and what doesn't apply to you. And as an enthusiast, you've got nothing to worry about. But as a regular everyday user, the information, the vast majority of information the enthusiasts are talking about is completely irrelevant for most users and how people use their computers. Now, at the end of the day, if you want to have the anxiety and you want to spend the money, and then you're going to pat yourself on the back because you're not running into any cooling problems, you likely would have never had any cooling problems to begin with. So I much prefer people wait until you have an actual issue that needs to be resolved. That's my preference. Than just assuming because you saw some video or you read some article online that you are going to have the problem and now you're trying to prevent that from happening. When I'm trying to get across to you, you likely would have never had that problem and you're spending money and time that is a complete waste because it's giving you some psychological peace of mind that doesn't really in reality fix anything for most people. So this is why I'm a terrible businessman. I should be trying to upsell people with ridiculous overkill add-ons they don't need because there's more profit in enthusiast level stuff. There's more profit for RAM that has RGB on it. There's more profit on coolers that are fancier. So it doesn't necessarily mean they cool any better, but there's a much better profit margin in it. So manufacturers love to sell that stuff. As far as manufacturers are concerned, they want you to think that you better buy their product to avoid a heat problem. But very rarely does anybody ever contact me these days with a real problem anymore. What I get mostly is, what if, or can I do this? And my answer is always the same. Try it and see. At the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. People are like looking for some reassurance. Your reassurance is the experience. And I'm always here. If that experience goes sideways on you, we can help you solve it. But what I can't do, and what no one can really do, is predict that everything's going to go smoothly, everything's going to be compatible, you're not going to make a mistake, or you're not going to install improperly or do something incorrectly that maybe have no impact on any fault of the product. I can't. Nobody can predict that. So on the other hand, if you actually do have an overheating problem and you're looking to resolve that, rather than just hitting YouTube videos, you're going to be directed to expensive overkill products more times than not. Come on into our community. Let us know what the problem is. I'll do my best to provide an answer. The chat room will also provide us their suggestions, and you can pick the right, reasonable, and practical solution that fits your particular needs and budget. And in most cases, these people that are buying these coolers, these overkill coolers that cost, in my opinion, way too much money because they're afraid their machine's going to overheat, never experience an overheat issue. They act as though they have one, or they're going to have one if they don't do something. And then they spend the money, and of course they never have an overheating problem, so they think they did good. When in fact, if they would have just left the original cooler on it, or they just did like a Mugen 5 like I recommend, they would have never had a heat problem either and would have spent a fraction of the cost and probably a lot easier to install. So just bear that all in mind as you watch YouTube videos, that in the tech arena of YouTube, it is mostly made up of enthusiasts who are not looking at practicality. They're looking at getting something bleeding edge for whatever reason. They're enthusiastic about it. And if you've got the kind of money that you can afford that, have at it. The content, there's so much available at your fingertips. Pretty much, most of the tech content here on YouTube is, in my opinion, and from my experience, impractical. It's just something fun to do, and like any other hobby, you throw money at it, and it doesn't result necessarily in getting your money's worth, other than the entertainment factor or the time it occupies as a distraction for you. But when it comes to solving real-world problems, heat is very rarely a real-world problem. And I'm telling you this because as a working computer technician, I can provide you with a perspective these enthusiasts don't have. And that's not saying it's better than them or it's more viable, the information. What I am saying is there's a difference, and I want you to be aware of that difference so that when you're making a decision or when you're gauging the validity of the information and how it might affect you, that you can take a look at that from a little more of a distance so it doesn't feel as though this is something you absolutely have to have as more of an emotional need versus something you absolutely have to have for the computer to be functional, reliable, safe, secure. So when I recommend a computer like this one, the primary focus is we're talking about the price. We're hitting a price point here that's unbelievable. And given that we're sort of entering into this, we're borderline inflation, recession, typically prices go up. So to see something like this come down, and it's 12th gen, that's pretty impressive to me. There's our final numbers, of course, 523 on the top left. That's our maximum sequential read speed on this drive. 490.5 is our maximum sequential write speed on this drive. So in other words, it won't go any faster than that. In the best case scenario, that's the best it'll do. And quite frankly, whether you're getting 2,000 megabytes a second, 5,000, 7,000, the more megabytes per second you're getting, the less results you're actually going to experience unless you're doing a ton of input output. And once again, you'd be likely spending 5 times more at a machine for somebody that would need or require those demands. Putting this together yourself, if you were to just buy the case, buy the power supply, buy the RAM, buy the storage, buy the operating system, you're easily going to be around $400. So again, the price on this, I can't emphasize, very temporary, just until February the 15th. And as far as I know, USA only, but if you want to try that discount code at other Amazon, like .co.uk or .ca, you could try it. I don't think that it works. I want to show you the Amazon page on this. Let me switch over to my capture card here. Or rather, not my capture card, my screen grab. Let's go to There we go, I got the input selected. There it is. So you see they're asking $299.95 here on the Amazon website. It says apply $40 coupon. That's going to take us down. Well, I have to sign in for that to work. But that's going to take us down to $259. And then when we go to proceed to checkout, when we get to that final stage of checkout, when we're telling them how we want to pay, there's an option for a coupon code. We put in Carrie Holzman, all as one word, and that brings that price down to $199.96. That is a crazy good deal. So just looking through the images here, I don't know why they call that ROM. It's not read-only memory. ROM would be like a laser disc. It'd be something that you could only read from. That's bad marketing right there, misrepresentation, and not in their favor. And then you can see all the ports as I discussed that I've shown you already. This is the GK3 Plus mini PC. You can see it goes up to 3.4 gigahertz. It does support 4K, which I'm surprised at. Dual Wi-Fi, meaning it's 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The Bluetooth is only 4.2. I think 5.3 is the latest standard. And it's got 44 reviews averaging 5 stars. So you just absolutely have to make sure you've got your expectations set accordingly. I think it's a heck of a deal. I think I've made that pretty clear. It's not a rocket ship. It is not a bleeding edge computer that you're going to continually upgrade and expand, but rather a full working, a very affordable, very responsive computer that will likely last you many years trouble-free. I'm just looking at some of the pictures reviewers have posted here. Somebody really took their time with this. They did a great job here. That's the power light in the front. Wow, somebody really took their time and did a great job documenting all this. All right, let me go back over to the chat room, see if you guys have any questions for me before we move on to the next step, which I think is going to be opening this thing up and figure out how we get it open. Let's go back to camera 1, full screen. Why is my full screen not working? There it is. Kevin Crowley has been a member for 9 months as well. Right on. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thanks for continuing to support the channel. And Patrick Manny, also 9 months. He says, hello. Well, hello to you. Look at all these members for 9 months. That's awesome. Do you guys have any questions for me about the unit? Or about any clarity about anything I've said that isn't clear? I'm going to scroll through the chat and see what I've missed here. Hal Grubbs, hello to Carrie, Camera Queen, Nutty, and all in chat.
Camera Queen?
That's a new one. Welcome in.
Should I get a crown?
No. Greg M says with the discount code, it works out to 305 Canadian up here in the Great White North. Okay. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not sure what the Canadian dollar is to the American dollar. It's less, though. It's always been less as far as I can remember. Sarge Tech said he's going to wait until 2025 before he buys another machine. He's going to squeeze out every bit of Windows 10. Yeah, and you don't have to wait till the end of 2025. Chris Johnson said this PC would be perfect for my partner's business. Very cool. I'm seeing a really far lag on my YouTube page that I'm monitoring. So I want to refresh that. It's like way behind for some reason. See if that catches me up here. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Sometimes it's good to hit the refresh button. Russell Starr says hello. Shamim says hello from Gothenburg, Sweden. Right on. Welcome in, Shamim. Ron Barnish says he's been a member now for 6 months. That is awesome. Admiral Six Killer says, I just bought this and a 450 watt ASUS power supply for it. What do you mean you bought a 450 watt power supply for it? This comes with the power supply it needs. Am I missing something? Shane Perkins says, got mine. Flipperflop said mini PC should use maybe 30 watts of power max. It does appear to be a 30 watt power supply that it comes with, and I believe it's a 15 watt processor. Jim KJ3N said OCD in computer enthusiasts is rampant. It does tend to go with the territory because computers themselves are OCD. Everything has to be exactly right, or the computer, because it's quite literal, doesn't do what you wanted it to do because you didn't dot the I or cross the T, as the expression goes. So even if you weren't OCD before you got into computers, the more you work with them every day for hours and hours and hours, day after day after day, it'll start impacting your behavioral patterns. So if you're not, say for example, some people are born with OCD, other people it's a learned behavior that's just by creating a habit, by spending so much time with a computer, it alters your overall personality. You've heard the expression, fake it till you make it, or dress for the job you want, not the job you have. It's this idea of repetition to a point where you don't even realize you're doing it anymore, whatever the thing is. And so, yes, OCD, it can happen because of just you're born that way, or it can be a learned behavior if you're someone who spends a lot of time with computers. Lou Greenia says it looks like the RAM is not upgradable, M.2 SATA SSD only. But hey, at this price point, I'd take it. We can verify that, and it wouldn't surprise me. Starshine says £299 here in the UK with a 6% discount and a checkbox for 40% off, but it ships from America, which then bumps the price about 10 million pounds. Let's see. See, Bob R. has joined us in the chat. Welcome in, Bob. Marcus TZM says the total of $199.99. Sorry, let me start over. Marcus TZM says the total is $199.96 US dollars in Oregon. Oh yeah, Oregon doesn't have sales tax. He says that's a great deal. I love these Intel N chips, using an N4200 Chromebook right now. Brilliant low power chips. Low power also means low heat, and less electricity, costs less to run. Sean McDermott said this model does not seem to be available in the UK. We have a GK3 Pro, but it's an 11th gen N5105. And that's selling at £478.95. Yeah, I don't know what's available in other countries, but good to know. Again, doesn't surprise me. This is the newest model. Shamim said $1 equals 1.33 Canadian. Canadian dollar is worth more than an American dollar? That doesn't sound right. I got to check that out myself. Remain skeptical. Let me see. Canadian dollar to USD. A Canadian dollar is equivalent to about 75 cents US. Yeah, so it's not 1.33. That's not correct. 1 Canadian dollar represents 3/4 of 1 American dollar. So it would make sense that for the Canadian price to be the same in US dollars, it would need to be 25% more just to level it off. Plus you might have import fees or things the government might impose, depending on what country you're in, which of course also adds to the cost. It does show that I have dropped some frame rates during this broadcast, which doesn't happen very often, but not many. I've noticed some people in the chat mentioning they're having some buffering issues. I haven't seen any buffering issues on my side, but there have been a couple of drop frames, but nothing terrible. Very, very like 0.2 of 1/5 of a percentage of all the frames I'm putting out. And it looks like it might have been a little bump, but hopefully nobody else is buffering. Sarge Tech wants to know if I think this machine would be good as a complete media server. Oh yeah, easily. This is more powerful than a Fire Stick from Amazon or Roku. This is way more power than that. Much more versatile as well. Ben there says Amazon does not show the GK3 for this price. Yeah, I just showed it to you. But if you want, just look at the video description on this video, and I have a link. Likely you're going to a different page, you're going to a different product. So be sure and use the links that I put in my video notes to ensure that you are going to the right place. Because if you're going to the wrong place, if you're going to the wrong page, it would be completely unrealistic for you to think that you can go to a different page and still see the page I showed. If that makes any sense. To avoid this confusion, don't search for it. Use the links that I provide you to direct you to the right place the first time. Bob R. contributes $10 in Super Chat. He says, hello, Carrie, and chat TGIF. Right on, Bob. Thank goodness it's Friday. I agree. Oh, Shane says $1 is the equivalent to 1.33 Canadian dollars. Okay, it was the other way around. I gotcha. Thank you for the correction. Michael Dahmer says, can I install a legacy Windows 10 hard drive and configure the BIOS for dual boot? No, not on this machine you wouldn't. Again, when you're at this price point, you're at this $200 price point, and you want to do something that custom, you should open your wallet and build something more custom. Now, it is possible to put a dual boot operating system on this, but it's got nothing at all to do with your BIOS. And whether that's Windows 10 or Linux or a mixture therein, but I would strongly advise you to buy a custom-built PC or to buy a machine far more powerful if that's the way you want to use it. If, on the other hand, what you're looking for is a machine you can take out of the box, plug it in, and start using it, this is right up your alley. Any sort of customization of the machine, in my opinion, you should not be starting at the very bottom of the barrel because any upgrade options are going to be extremely limited at this price point. So yes, you can put dual boot on it, but no, I wouldn't recommend it on a machine of this stature. But it certainly is possible, but it has nothing to do with the BIOS, just so we're clear. Ron says buying this from the United States and having it shipped to England is 215 pounds. 215 pounds for shipping? It's more than the unit. Okay, so I'm kind of curious how this opens up. So I'm told, and I'm assuming what I'm told is accurate here, that this little switch back here somehow releases or opens. I have no idea. I'm going to play with this, but first I want to shut it off so I can unplug it and properly look at it and see if I can figure out how to open it. I'm not big on looking things up on the internet. I'm much more into experiencing it, much like a video game. I don't want to read walkthroughs and sheets, or going to a movie. I don't want to know everything about the movie. It takes away from the experience for me. This is what I enjoy doing, and this is how I started in this field in the 1980s and professionally in the 1990s. You had to figure things out. There was no internet. So you learned, trusted sources you could go to, or you learned patience and reverse engineering. I love reverse engineering stuff. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I noticed the light on the front of this just went red, so I think it just went to sleep or something here. So let me go back over to the not window capture, the HDMI input. And it says no signal, so I'm guessing it's asleep. Let me wiggle the mouse. There we go. Slide this back in. I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to shut it down. Oops. Okay, and then, there, it is shut off that quickly. Go back to camera 1, and I'm going to unplug power, unplug the internet, and unplug the HDMI cable. Grab my glasses. Now there is a screw here. I wonder if the screw has to come out. I see there's two cutouts here that you could hang this on something like a picture. They've got a support email and phone number on the bottom, which is wonderful, so you don't have to search for that like you do with other manufacturers at times. The specs on the bottom do say 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig. It says ROM. It's not ROM. It's an improper use of the word ROM. And I would imagine that this little switch here should move easily. So I'm guessing that that little screw has to come out. Maybe the screw is what prevents that switch from moving accidentally. I am guessing. So I'm going to take this one little screw out. And I'll leave it on the end of this driver. Now does this move? Oh, much easier. Let's grab the close-up camera and we'll see what's inside here, nice and close up. Thomas wants to know if the speed at 1.7 ramps up. Yes, all modern CPUs run at 1/4 to 1/2 until they need to be used. That is to make sure the power consumption is low, that the heat is low, and then as you use it, you'll see the CPU ramps up as necessary. All right, let's go over to, oh, by the way, that's been the case since the introduction of the Core Duo back about 15 years ago. So this is how CPUs have been running now over a decade. That's all standard. And that's what you'd want it to be, by the way. You don't want to have the CPU running 100% all the time when it's just idling in a desktop. All right, let's go now to close-up camera. Here we go. Come on over here. Let's take a look at what's in here. Let me get my glasses back on. So yeah, so apparently that little screw back here keeps this switch from moving. So we pull that switch, it's on a spring, and it releases the top, which is all plastic. Right here, this is a nice touch. They have a space for a 2.5-inch solid state drive that can go in here. And then look, there's our connector. So it makes that super easy. And then the bag of screws that's included to secure a 2.5-inch SATA mechanical or solid state drive. We need to remove 3 screws here from the looks of things. Let me just verify that. Yeah, this looks like a large piece of copper, but it feels like plastic. I don't know what that is. Let me go ahead and take out. Oh, that's a very different kind of screw. Interesting. So these are not the same screw that go into the lid versus what's holding on this 2.5-inch drive bay. Let's open this up and see what we got in here. Okay, well, we do have regular RAM in here that is, in fact, somebody said the RAM wasn't upgradable, but clearly we can upgrade this RAM. This is only 2666 DDR4 laptop memory, and you have 1 module, so clearly it's not going to be in dual channel mode. With regards to the solid state drive, yeah, this is painted copper, but it's clearly plastic. Let's see, there's like this little cover is covering everything up. There's a screw here and a screw there. That screw there doesn't look like it needs to come out. What's underneath this? Well, and we'll find out. It's really unusual that they use these self-tapping screws versus machine screws. Oh, it's sticky. It's got some kind of a sticky substance. Nothing we can get at under here anyway. What about this other side? Where did they hide the M.2 on us? Well, I can understand why that's covered. There's nothing to get at, so might as well cover it up. Interesting. Interesting choice there. So the question is, where is our storage at? I can't really tell, but it appears that there would be screws underneath these rubber feet. And I don't like it when manufacturers do this because once you peel the rubber feet off, they just don't stick as well after that. And of course, the more you have to do that, the more likely you're going to have to add some glue or something to get to it. So this isn't a machine that is easily upgradable in the sense that, yes, we can get to the RAM super easy. That's no big deal. But for the Wi-Fi card or for the M.2 storage, it's got to be located on the other side, which does not make it easy to get to. Interesting choice here. I'm just looking to make sure that there's not a clip or something I can press to release this top piece, because this top piece is sort of blocking us from pulling the board out. And the only reason this piece seems to exist is just for that look here, where it has this grill style of look for airflow, and to fit the 2.5-inch bay. So if this didn't have this 2.5-inch bay, well, I suppose you're still going to need this anyway, because otherwise you'll have a gaping hole here on the front and well, on the sides rather, left and right side. very curious. I really don't want to disassemble it beyond that point, though. Again, it's not designed to be upgradable. At this price point, what they've essentially sold you is a disposable computer. It's like trying to refuel the butane in a disposable lighter. It doesn't make any sense. It's more trouble to do that than to simply buy another 99-cent lighter. At this price point, the ability to add a 2.5-inch mechanical or solid state drive is a surprise, a very welcome surprise. And the ability to change your RAM module out, stick a 32 gig in there, seems very doable. I can't see any reason why that wouldn't work. However, a machine with such low processing power is less likely to require 32 gigs of RAM anyway. So in most cases, that would be, in my opinion, a waste of money. You'd be better off investing in a higher end CPU if you're that demanding of a user that you would need 32 gigs or more of RAM. This isn't the ideal computer for you. But I do believe the vast majority of computer owners would benefit from a machine like this over what they have now. And certainly as a home theater PC, something quiet, out of the way, very, very affordable. And of course, while it's in warranty, you've got peace of mind. Outside of warranty, it's likely not worth fixing. I'm seeing this more and more with items like the printer a customer asked me to fix. A laser printer needed a new fuser. Well, the fuser was $80 and you have to take out, disassemble 30% of the printer to get to it. I went on eBay, found a used version of the same printer for $67, which included free shipping, but it didn't tell me anything other than it was tested and it works perfectly. It said it would not include a toner cartridge. Well, it arrived. It in fact did include a toner cartridge. And when I did a printer report and had it print out a page about its status, where the customer's printer has 150,000 plus prints, this printer only has a little over 10,000 prints. So it's still like a brand new printer. So I'm able to essentially repair the customer's printer by replacing it for less money and less labor. And I can turn it around faster, save the customer money. I can do more work. In other words, instead of tying up hours of my day fixing this printer, it's only tying up minutes of my day to replace it, to swap it out. And then I can move on to the next customer's job. The more jobs I do in a day, the more money I make, the more people I can help. And yeah, it's very satisfying for me to have that feeling of fulfillment. So I love being able to help as many people as possible, as cheaply as possible, as quickly as possible, and to get it done right the first time. So this replacement printer, customer won't even know it's a different printer. It's exactly the same printer. Will it have as long of a life versus fixing the old one? There's no guarantee either way. So usually in a situation like this, I'll keep the old printer for parts for 2-3 months, and if I don't hear from the customer in that span of time, it'll likely go to Goodwill or something like that where it can be properly recycled or resold. So that's my plan on handling those problems. Get through it quick, fast, quick, inexpensive. Certainly a lot cheaper than buying a new one, which the customer was going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and put this screw back in here. So not a whole lot to look at in here. And again, I'm not going to disassemble it any more than this. I think that at this price point, expecting anything more than this would be unrealistic. I'm trying to figure out where I took this screw out from. I thought I took it from this corner, but now I'm not so sure. That's not it. And that's not it. Where did I remove it? Think about it this way. On the veteran PCs, I pick up these off-lease computers. They run me about $120. I end up replacing the mechanical drive with a solid state drive. I update the BIOS. I download all the Windows updates. And then I package it up and I ship it, and it costs me anywhere from, on the low end, $60, and on a high end to $160 to get it packed, shipped, and insured, just to ship it domestically within the United States. A machine like this is ultimately going to cost less, give you way more power, will have a longer usable lifespan, shelf life, and in both cases, they're both disposable in the sense that it would cost more to repair out of warranty than to simply buy another one. Food for thought. Oh, I see, the screw went right there. Now I see it. Right there. We'll pop the RAM back in here. What's interesting, the RAM, and this is an important little detail, and I'm not sure all laptop memory has these little holes, but do you see the little hole right there and right there? And if you look closely on the socket, there is a lip or a nub that sticks up here and here. So if the RAM you're putting in doesn't have those holes, then the RAM will not seat down because it's going to go through these holes here. Those little, I've never noticed that on RAM before. So that's why I would just leave it alone. I would leave it exactly as it is and say, hey, it's a $200 computer. It's a great bargain. And if you want something more demanding, then spend more money. It's reasonable, isn't it? It was kind of in there like that. And then this lid, you can see these two notches that lock in here, and these two tabs that go in here. These will go in first, like this. And there's nothing to it. And then we can put that screw back in it. And then that prevents that release from moving, so it keeps everything secure in there. And I've noticed on the Ace Magician and on this computer here, if we can zoom in on that, it does give you a little notification here about the Microsoft account sign-in, which of course we didn't need to do on this computer. But obviously it's been an issue enough to justify putting the sticker on it. And then down below, once again, we've got the Intel inside and the barcode that you can scan. And all the links are in the video notes below this video, in the video description. And then that's your power light here on the front. VGA port once again. Take another look at the bottom. They've got contact information for support. This is just apparently an air vent here. And then it tells us the RAM, and again, I don't know why they're calling the storage ROM. ROM stands for read-only memory, but this is memory you can save data to, so that should say SSD rather than ROM. So it's an improper, they've used the improper term here, so just be aware of that. That's not accurate. And shows it's the Alder N95 CPU, which you can Google to learn more about that CPU and how Intel is no longer selling or manufacturing, I should say, the Pentium brand or the Celeron brand. It has been replaced with this N branding now for those entry-level budget processors. Okay, let me go back over to camera one. Thank you, camera girl.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're on camera one, thanks. All right, let's see if there's any questions for me in the chat room. Ikaranus says phones like to label storage as ROM as well for some stupid reason. I've not noticed that before, but maybe something I'll have to start paying closer attention to. Starshine wants to know if I can show somebody how to use my code. Well, it requires a sign-on to Amazon. So when you go to Amazon and you add it to your cart, you'll notice that there's a checkbox on the product page. Before you add it to the cart, it says click here to save $40. Currently, today, February 10th. It's not going to stay there. So depending on if you're watching this video well after February 15th, I imagine that's not going to be an option anymore. When you add it to your cart, you go to proceed to checkout. When you proceed to checkout, it's going to ask you where you're shipping it to, how you intend on paying, and if you have a product code to enter. That's where you'll enter the word Carrie Holzman, all as one word, and that additional discount will apply. And that's here, as far as I know, only for Amazon in the USA. It's really no more simple than that. And I'm not sure what else I can do to advise you. It couldn't be any easier. So whatever difficulty you're having maybe on the machine you're using, if, for example, you're trying to purchase it with a tablet, it may look different or be represented on the screen differently. So it would be impossible for me to show you every possible browser and every possible platform. But the discount is there and it is valid. You just have to be patient and see what you're missing. It's probably right in front of you and you can't see it. And I can't see what you're using, so I can't emulate that, unfortunately. I would have to have your device so I can see what you're seeing. Somebody might be ordering it from a television, and so that's going to look very different than how it looks on a computer or a Windows-based browser. So just bear that in mind, and do know that if you're not seeing it, maybe use a different device so that you can see the screen properly. If you have a smart device you're using, such as a television or a smartphone or a tablet, probably should download the Amazon app from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store and use that to make the purchase so that the screen appears properly on your portable device. But with a Windows-based computer and a browser, it should be very, very simple for you to identify where the coupon code goes. But I do have to sign in, which would expose all of my private information, so I cannot demo that for you, but it's very, very obvious using a Windows-based computer. Do you guys have any questions for me, or do you have any technical issues you're trying to resolve that we can help you with? This will be the time to ask. I try to keep these live videos at around the 2-hour length, but I'll always stick around longer if the chat room is interacting. If, on the other hand, the chat room is quiet and mostly just watching, then we end it sooner rather than later. I will stick around as long as people are engaging with me. So it's up to you how long these videos last, and I encourage you to ask any technical related question you've got, or any question about this mini PC or any of the other mini PCs I've demoed, and I'll do my best to provide an answer. But bear in mind, when it comes to questions regarding how it's going to work for you, I don't know. Everybody's needs and expectations are different, but I can tell you Amazon's very good with returns. If you do order it from Amazon, not only do you save the money, not only do they have 1-day shipping available at no additional cost, but you also have the option of returning it within 30 days for any reason at all. And then you can, once you have it and you experience it, you can then have a better idea of whether or not that's going to meet your needs. You'll have a better idea than me or anybody else will have, because we don't know what your needs are. Michael Mancini says there are 4 screws under the rubber feet to get to the M.2. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I said, and I don't want to remove the rubber feet, so it's not that important to me. Oh, Mellon says, Carrie, I have an issue. When I shut off my computer, a buffer overflow error would appear. I've used CMD to fix it and it works, but after 2 days, it's back to the same issue. I generally recommend leaving computers on for this very reason. People that leave their computers on don't really experience anywhere near the number of problems people who turn their computers off and on again. Right? Mostly your cell phone stays on all the time. A lot of things these days, a lot of electronic items stay on. Even when you shut off a modern TV, it's still got power running through it. That's why it can turn on so quickly when you hit the power button. So I strongly recommend leaving the computer on and just turn the monitor off. You'll avoid a lot of these problems. It does sound like you might have bad RAM, or you might have some piece of software or driver that's wrong. And the only way to really know that is to do a clean install of Windows. So if you do a clean install of Windows, the good news is you can do it yourself. It'll cost you nothing. The bad news is you'll have to reinstall all your stuff back again. Now, if you do a clean install and the problem still occurs, you likely have something wrong hardware in the hardware venue of your machine. Most of the time that's RAM related. If it's not software related, that's the second thing. But the very first thing is to determine, is it hardware or software? And the best way to do that is a clean install. If the problem goes away, you fixed it. If the problem doesn't go away, you know it's not the software. There's something physically wrong, and it's likely the memory. You can test the memory for free using a free program called MemTest86. I have a video on that. Just search my YouTube channel for Mem, short for memory, test 86, all one word. It's free. You make a bootable flash drive, you boot from it, let it run. It can take an hour to 3 hours to run. If it shows any errors, there is no repairing RAM. You simply will remove, assuming you've got more than one RAM module, just shut the machine off, take one of the RAM modules out, run the test again. If the errors still occur, shut it back down, reinstall the RAM you took out and take out the RAM you left in, run it again, and that's how you identify a bad RAM module. If you're just a home user and you want to do it yourself, it just takes time, but it's free. It's not rocket science. It's very easy. It's not, RAM is not repairable. You would simply replace it. Steve Mercure says, thanks for your demonstrating and your thoughts on the N-class processors. I'm considering purchasing a laptop with an N-class CPU, and now I know it'll be fine for my main use, watching Kerry Holzman videos. Oh, for sure, watching YouTube videos, this is overkill for that, quite honestly, for sure. You don't need 4 cores to watch my videos. Larry wants to know if I recommend using ADW Cleaner. I haven't used it myself. I've never seen any reason to use it. So I guess it would help me to understand why you would want to use it. So instead of asking me would I use it, tell me what the problem is you think that's going to resolve. I might be able to answer that. And likely I would resolve it a different way, because I haven't used ADW Cleaner in years. But that's me, and I want to emphasize, I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm telling you I wouldn't use it. It doesn't seem to have any purpose these days. But I also don't know why you're even considering it. John Williams wants to know, do I know what happened to Doug Betts the last 2 days? No, I'm sorry, I haven't. What happened? Oh, there's Peter Laycock in the chat. Hey, Peter, he says, good night, Carrie and Marlena and everyone in the chat. It is 11:24 at night. I'm going to try and get some sleep. See you tomorrow. Hi, Peter. I hope you are feeling better and get some rest. And
Thank you there, Peter.
And we'll look forward to seeing you or hearing from you soon. Thank you again for your unbelievable and continued generosity. Not enough I can say to express that appreciation. Jason Ryrick said that he uses ADW Cleaner on heavily infected computers. So I haven't seen any infected computers pretty much since the pandemic. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that my clients are making good decisions behind the keyboard. They know better than to click on links they shouldn't be clicking on or going to sites they shouldn't be going to. And we have the paid version of Malwarebytes that will in most cases, pop up and alert them when they are making an attempt to go to a site that has a bad reputation or is known for distributing riskware or malware. As a result, they never get infected. I'm more about prevention than about cure. And well, yes, it is my job to cure when it comes to repairing computers. That makes up less than 20% of my work. 80% of my work is prevention. That's sometimes difficult to sell to a client when you say, look, we're making backups so that when something happens, not if, when something happens to your data, we have an external copy of it. It's prevention. Making sure the computers are constantly updated with the latest Windows updates, that Malwarebytes, the license hasn't been allowed to expire, that we do regular scans, that everything's running the way it should, prevents creating a mess. When somebody brings you a mess, let me put it this way. You might say, Carrie, what do you think about a broom? Brooms are great. But you know what's better than a broom? Not letting the floor get so messy to begin with that you need the broom. Take care of it when the problem is minor. Don't wait for it to get worse. So if you, I've known people, they go to fast food drive-thrus and they just throw the empty wrappers on the floorboard of the passenger seat, and they never get around to cleaning it out, and they go back and do this again and again and again, and their car looks like a garbage truck. It's disgusting. If they simply would have taken that trash out of the car that very day, the same day they put it in there, it would have never gotten that bad. So now instead of taking 10 seconds to throw this trash away, now it's going to take much longer, and then there's a smell to conquer as well in many cases, as the leftover remnants of food in fast food bags that have been baking in the sun in the car with the windows rolled up has just permeated into the plastic in the seats, and it's nasty. So they took something that would have taken 10 seconds, couldn't be bothered, and now it's going to take a much larger investment of time to get it all cleaned up, which if they didn't want to do it when it was going to take 10 seconds, I can guarantee you a person of that personality is definitely not going to want to do it if it's going to take an hour and a half or 2 hours and require some elbow grease to some scrubbing. But that's my personal preference, and that's what I charge my customers to do when if I'm a managed service provider for these clients that I have, then I make sure all of these things are in alignment and we're ready. So if something happens, we can respond immediately and correctly and get them back on track. It costs me less time, which makes me more profitable, and my customer is happier because their downtime is minimized. So it's all about prevention as much as possible. We can't prevent everything, but in my experience, 80% of the problems customers have were avoidable if they followed basic practices that don't take much time. It takes far more time to fix it and more money. KY Engineer says, I've got an i7-8850 laptop with 64 gigs of RAM, built-in Intel graphics 630. Will my performance improve if I upgrade to Windows 11? Generally speaking, no, there's no performance difference between Windows 10 and Windows 11. If you go to PC World magazine, there's a video Gordon Ung did where he ran a number of different applications, including games, on the same PC with Windows 10 versus Windows 11. Exactly the same machine, same configuration. All he did was change it from Windows 10 to Windows 11 on a 12th gen processor with this idea that Microsoft would have us believe that there's a performance improvement on a 12th or 13th gen processor from Intel, because they say Windows 11 has more effective use of the performance cores versus the efficiency cores. But that's not the reality of the results that Gordon Ung did. And if you're interested in that, go to their YouTube page and just look for that video. It was posted, I think, last month, within the last 3 or 4 weeks. And you can watch them do those tests and verify that. So no, there should be no performance difference. It's possible that you maybe run some unusual software most people don't run that could see a difference. But if we're talking standard applications and games that the vast majority of people use their computers for, they noticed in their testing at PC World no performance difference on those 12th gen and newer Intel chips, as was previously. We were led to believe with intention in marketing materials that Windows 11 is a better choice for Intel 12th and 13th gen processors. Turns out, in reality, there's no difference. But again, there could be an exception. And at the end of the day, because Windows 11 is a free upgrade for you, if you have Windows 10, I'm assuming, there's no harm in you trying it and seeing for yourself. Then you can always uninstall it if you don't like it. Robert Hooper says, my computer says there is no operating system. If your computer was working and then one day you went to turn it on, it says no operating system, that usually indicates that your storage drive has failed. And again, there's no repairing that. You would have to replace your storage drive and reinstall Windows. 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, no boot device or no operating system equates to your hard drive has died. KY Engineer says, thanks. I saw something that Windows 11 2022 will improve performance. Yes, they kept repeating that over and over, but nobody's ever demoed it. Nobody's ever proven it. So my hat's off to Gordon over at PC World for actually doing the work nobody has done. And I don't know why nobody actually tested that claim. As far as I know, that's the first time I've ever seen that claim tested. And in my experience, when I started installing the 12th gen Intel processors, I was on board with what I was told from Intel, from official sources, that, well, you don't need to have Windows 11. It's not a requirement for 12th and 13th or 12th and later gen Intel chips. It does optimize it and you'll get better performance. But they lied. They absolutely lied, or they exaggerated. If I go over to, let's go over to YouTube. And you know what? I'm going to bring up YouTube in Microsoft Edge. And I'll share the screen with you here in just a minute. Okay, let's go to the OBS software. And let's share the Microsoft Edge screen. Here we go. I'm going to type in PC World. You know what? Let's just go to PC World. And there's their main page. We'll click on Videos. Was it 2 months ago they did it? I didn't think I'd have to go this far back. Let's try this. I don't know. I'm trying to find it in a hurry because I'm live. let's just use this little magnifying glass. This searches the PC World channel, and this is on every YouTube channel where you can search that channel only. We'll type in Windows 11 and see what comes up here. There's why Windows 11 is still unnecessary. Do you really need to run Windows 11 on Intel CPUs? This is the video. Looks like it was last month, right? This is the video I'm referring to. See if I'll let that ad play. We'll skip the ad here. And I love the work Gordon does. I'm a big fan of the type of journalism Gordon creates. He was with Maximum PC Magazine, and now he's with PC World Magazine. And he does a lot of practical testing, and he has a lot of practical advice. And I find it so uncommon in the tech arena that I just think we have a shortage of folks like Gordon who answers the practical questions and then does the actual testing. So if you're interested in the difference in Windows 10 versus Windows 11 performance on the latest Intel chips, which are the 12th and 13th gen where these claims were made, you can see for yourself how these tests were conducted and what the results were. So if that's of interest to you, that's where you can find it. And that video is how long? Yeah, it's only a little over 20 minutes long. All right, let me get back over to the chat and see if you guys have any other questions for me. David said, I'm just tuning in. I'll have to go back and watch tomorrow, but the mini PC and Amazon in the UK is £479 unless I'm missing something. Well, what you're missing is that I'm an American broadcaster, so everything I talk about is based on what I know with regards to what's available here in the USA. I do have viewers all over the world. I have viewers Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK. I've got viewers in various European countries. It would be impossible for me to cater to all the viewers in all the other countries. My recommendation is when you're watching an American channel and we're talking about American products and American prices, most of us Americans have no idea what's available outside of America. So I don't make the claim that the information of hardware that I review is even an option for you to buy at any price in another country. It may be restricted by your country, or there may be other reasons why that product is not available or sells for a completely different price. Just as there are products in England that are not available here in the USA, ignorance is bliss because I don't know what they are, but I guarantee you have products available to you in the UK that we don't have here. The one that came to mind is I was watching a British show and they mentioned something called tender stem broccoli. What the heck is that? Well, it turns out it's just a name brand that exists solely in the UK for what is essentially broccolini. So kind of had me confused. I thought, oh, this is some kind of weird new vegetable. No, it's just broccolini with a trade name. And that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as tender stem broccoli, as far as I know, outside of the United Kingdom. But there is such a thing as broccolini, which is the exact same thing. At least that's my understanding of it. Huh?
I don't believe it.
You don't believe it? I believe it. I believe Wikipedia in this case. Tom Jackson with $7.77 in Super Chat. Says, hope all is well. Chin up, cheer up, and carry on. Yes, sir. Thank you for your contribution and your kind words. Is my discount code case sensitive? I don't think so. If I go to Amazon and enter the coupon code, the only thing I think is case sensitive are passwords. Email addresses aren't case sensitive. I don't think coupon codes, generally speaking, are case sensitive. I would type it in as I've shown it in the video description with a capital C and a capital H, all one word. And obviously you would want to use the link that I provide in the video notes, because that coupon code will not apply to a different product. It only applies to that specific product purchased at Amazon.com, just so we're clear. If you do something differently than I show it, don't expect to get the same results. Jim KJ3N said he just tried using the coupon code in all lowercase and it worked fine for him. Thank you, Jim. Thanks for reporting that back. Alan Lindos, also with a $7.77 super chat contribution. He says, I'll match Tom's gift to buy you another Gatorade on me. Well, thank you, Alan. In fact, I think I'm going to grab a colder one since this one's getting a little warm. We're getting close here to the 2-hour mark, so I'll remind you that barring any interaction from you guys asking questions and engaging with me, I will wrap it up. So if you want to have me stick around, interact with me. RD Helm says, Carrie, can you move Office 2016 from one computer to another? In general, you cannot move software from one computer to another. It's like taking the license plate off the back of your car and putting it onto a different car. You'd have to get permission from the Department of Motor Vehicles to do that. It is a license, literally a license, and that license is for one computer. So the best I could recommend that you do is install, don't move, but install Office 2016 on your new computer and try your product key. In most cases, it won't activate, but it's possible it does. The good news is you can save a lot of money on Office 2016 by using VIP CDK deals. The links I have in this video description would use the coupon code CARRY to get 30% off. And then once it activates, it'll stay tied to that motherboard indefinitely. And if you want to move it again, you can buy another one. You'd have to buy it 10 times at VIP CDK deals before you'd reach the price of one retail key at the price Microsoft charges. So even if you had to buy it again, it's still a massive savings. The only difference would be if you had a retail version of Microsoft Office, in which case you could install it again. Or if you had Office 365 where you're signing into a Microsoft account, you could move that to another computer. But these OEM licenses are sold at an extreme discount because they are intended to be activated once and tied to that motherboard forever. And for that, you save about 90%. So if you want the ability to move it, you can spend 10 times more and get the retail license and you'll be able to move it, or get the subscription for Office 365. But it's possible that when you do a clean install of Office on a new computer and you re-enter your product key, if you're lucky, it'll activate. In most cases, it won't. It'll say you've already used this key, but won't cost you anything to try it. Bikeman wants to know, is it safe to use a hard drive as internal storage that's been sitting outside the PC for months, now stored in an anti-static bag? It's a Western Digital 1 terabyte drive purchased in 2018. He's currently got a 4 terabyte storage drive internally. It's really impossible for me to see the future. I can't tell you how long a drive will last. I can also tell you it shouldn't matter to you. Nobody should care if their drive dies. It should not be a cause for concern or anxiety. If you have anything important, you should be making a copy of it regardless. And then if the drive should fail on you, you would simply replace the drive and restore from your backup. It's really not a big deal. I have no idea. That drive could run for 20 minutes and die, or it can run for the next 20 years. You're asking a question nobody on this planet can answer your question. It's not possible. Michael Dane, hey, there he is, the man himself. Jumps into the chat here, says hello. Welcome in, Michael. John Williams wants to know, when Microsoft offers the upgrade, from Windows 10 to Windows 11, do you have to reinstall all your default programs like your browser? No. If you're doing an upgrade, you're putting the operating system on top. So it's going to carry over all your applications. Nothing gets erased. Only a clean install would erase your programs. So that's what an upgrade is by definition. It's that we are putting something on top of a pre-existing piece of software and not changing any data or configuration. Michael Dane is a supporter now for 2 months. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate the folks in the chat room trying to help a gentleman make the purchase of this computer at Amazon. Thanks for helping each other out, guys. That's what this community is all about. Anna Linda says some states allow you to move your license plate to your next vehicle. Oh, it's a license plate, and it's tied to the car it's registered to. So if you were to move that license plate onto a different vehicle, you would most certainly have to get permission from the Department of Motor Vehicles here in the United States. And in much the same way, a software license is the same as a license you put on a vehicle. It is tied to one car only. And of course, we're talking about software licenses and how it's tied to a motherboard, OEM software licenses. If you want to spend 10 times more and get the retail license, then the opportunity to move that to another platform is more tolerated by Microsoft. Oh, even that has limits to how many times they'll let you do it. And they're not real clear. It's just one day they'll just stop activating it and say you've done it too many times. Hey, there's Marco joining us all the way from Italy. Welcome in, Marco. Speaking of Italy, I have to tell you, we're going to go a little off topic here, but I was at the store the other day in the frozen pizza section, and I saw something I haven't seen before. I'm going to grab it out of the freezer here. This right here. This Newman's Own authentic Italian Stonefire crust, imported from Italy. No preservatives, no artificial ingredients. It's just buffalo mozzarella, San Marzano tomatoes, extra virgin olive oil, and basil. This is $8.99. I put this directly on the oven rack. I put foil, aluminum foil, on the rack below just in case there's any drips or anything. And this is shockingly good. There's a restaurant I like to go to that makes authentic VPN. VPN is like a certification that you're using genuine Italian ingredients and cooking it in a genuine Italian way in order to attain the certification. And the pizzas are pretty simple. Even to get VPN certification, you've got to put the sauce on in a clockwise direction. That's how detailed this is. 00 flour is used. Well, I don't expect much in a frozen pizza. I've given up on things like DiGiorno and things like that. They're just disgusting to me. So I thought I'll try this, put this in the oven. It tastes almost exactly like the restaurant I like to go to that's VPN certified. I would have a hard time telling them apart. It's that good. There's a freshness to it. It's just, I was trying to think of the flavor, how to describe it. Then I decided to put this into a YouTube search to see if anybody's done any reaction videos to this. And this guy had the exact same reaction I did, which is, you know, it's a frozen pizza. Don't set your sights too high, but let's give it a shot. He bites into it, takes a few chews as the flavor, you know, he's starting to absorb the flavor. His eyes get really big. He's like, holy cow, it's amazing. It's incredibly fresh. Needless to say, I had to go back to the store and buy as many as I could fit into the freezer. Because my luck, they'll stop selling them at the grocery store. Once I find a product I like, I go back to buy it. Oh, they don't make it anymore. Murphy's Law. So I've learned to load up. I wish I had a bigger freezer, because the grocery store that I went to had a bunch of these, and must have had 3 or 4 dozen of them. So for me, just grabbing like 4, I think I grabbed 4 of them. So good, so good. Unbelievable that that's a frozen pizza. I cannot believe it. It tastes like an authentic, real Neapolitan-style Italian pizza from Italy, which I guess it is. And all the profits from Newman's brand go to charity for children. So I'm doing it for the children. John Williams says, thanks for the live stream and all the info you provide to everyone. I love your show. I hope Lyle and Jimmy are doing good. Lyle's not doing too well. He's hanging in there, but he's getting old and having some problems. So I just saw him Wednesday, and he's fallen down a lot. He's gained a lot of weight. I think he has some tumor inside that's growing. He's too old to operate. We're not going to put him through it. His hips are going. But, mentally, he's still Lyle. He just doesn't move around as much. And there's some concern that this is it's getting worse faster than expected. So I'll keep you up to date as it progresses. Hopefully, it's just a spell he's going through and he'll get back to, there's nothing, as dogs get older, it's pretty common for the hips to start to go. But whatever this growth is, he's got it. It's making his belly bigger, and he's gaining weight. And we've had to move him over to soft food. So I don't know how much time he's got left, but I hope he gets better before he gets worse anyway. But and Jimmy's still Jimmy. Nothing different there. No news is good news with Jimmy. Mitch Morrison joins us. Hey, Mitch. He's got his dad joke of the day. How do you send soda pop to an astronaut with a bottle rocket? Oh. Wah, wah. Matt Zoloff has a question for me. Carrie, are there any downsides to upgrading to Windows 11 from Windows 7? I don't want to reinstall all the other programs I have. Can you? Can you install Windows 11 on top of Windows 7? I've never tried it before. I don't know. I would guess that if your computer's running Windows 7, that it doesn't meet the hardware requirements for Windows 11. So, well, Microsoft isn't enforcing those hardware requirements yet. It's highly expected that they will, and once they flip that switch, you'll no longer get updates. Windows 7 end of life was a couple of years ago. It's long in the grave. So I just couldn't imagine that any hardware you're running it on will support Windows 11 very long. But yeah. And as for putting Windows 11 on top of Windows 7, can you even do that? Will it work? I don't know. I don't know anybody who's tried. So you'd have to report back to me and let me know if that's what you do, how that goes. Providence Law says, Carrie, if the 200R is no longer available, what would be your pick for an Office PC-style case with a solid panel? I like the Corsair 110Q. Corsair 110Q. Mats Olaf said, sorry, I meant Windows 10. Going to Windows 10 from Windows 7 should not be a problem. But if you've got older software on your Windows 7 computer that hasn't been updated, it's possible you might have some obscure piece of software that doesn't run properly on Windows 10, but it seems unlikely. In most cases, you'd probably be okay. I would just take an Acronis image, a backup image of your computer with Windows 7, and then I'd go ahead and upgrade Windows 10 on top of it, and if anything doesn't work out for any reason, you can simply restore your image back to how it was. That way you have a little safety net, but it's probably going to be okay. Are there BIOS tweaks to allow newer operating systems to run on older hardware? Only if you don't care about your identity or security. So if you want to bypass all of the safety mechanisms that are there to protect you, I mean, I guess you could. I wouldn't advise it. The computer was designed to run an operating system at the time it was engineered. So trying to have a piece of equipment and to use it in a way that it was never designed to be used, you're not going to have any guaranteed results or guaranteed sustainable results. What might appear to work at first may end up not working. At the end of the day, what you do with your time and your equipment is on you. But as a professional business working in IT, I absolutely could not entertain that concept with a client because it would put me in a situation of potential liability and potentially what would essentially amount to, in a legal court case, the equivalent of malpractice. So I am very cautious about the legalities of my business here in the United States. We live in a very litigious society. People sue people all the time over the tiniest little problems. So if I feel that anything puts my business at risk because a customer is trying to save money or the customer is trying to have a shortcut, that at the end of the day, that reflects on me. So I will politely decline that work. They can have somebody else do that. I certainly wouldn't tell somebody what they can do. That's not my job. I'm not a police officer. I'm not here to enforce these rules or best practices. I just choose whether or not to get involved. In a case like yours, you know, what risks home consumers take is on them. So I don't condone that. But at the same time, if that's something you want the experience with, you know, have at it. Captain Blinsky says, my question concerns an odd glitch in Windows 10 Professional. When I'm working in a folder located on the desktop, I go back to my desktop, the folder has repositioned itself to another part of the desktop. Yeah, I have no idea on that one. My experience is that wherever I drag an item, whether it's a folder or an icon, that's where it stays, unless I change the video driver or after I move the item to where I want the icon or the folder to be, and I have not rebooted, but instead the computer got the power shut off unexpectedly, it may not save that location. So other than that, I have no idea why a folder would move on its own. I've never witnessed that. Mats Olaf says, Carrie, are there any downsides to upgrading Windows 11 from Windows 10? I don't want to reinstall all the programs I have. Sorry if I'm a little fuzzy. I don't know. I mean, so Mats Olaf, what you think is a downside, somebody else may see as a benefit. And depending on what software you've got and how compatible it is or isn't, I would have no idea. So again, what I would do, if this is that important to you, was I would make a backup image with Acronis of the hard drive the way it is with Windows 10. Once I have the backup image and I verify that the image is intact using the verification option in Acronis, Then go ahead and install Windows 11 and use it. If there's something intolerant or untenable for you in Windows 11, simply restore your backup image back to Windows 10, and there's your safety net, and you have peace of mind. So either way, it'll work out for you one way or the other. Wintermute said desktop icons can shift if you change the resolution. Absolutely. Or if you boot it into safe mode, which obviously changes your resolution, or you install a new driver, which might change your resolution. All of those things could cause the movement of the icons. Any other questions I've missed? You'll have to ask your question again. If I haven't addressed it, it's because I haven't seen it. So do ask it again, and I'll do my best to provide an answer for you. Looks like I might have missed some contributions here. Let me go back to my viewer activity page. Sue Cool has contributed $10 via Super Chat. Well, thank you for that, Sue Cool. Barry Russ with a $2 Super Chat. Bob R, $10 Super Chat earlier today. Thanks, guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. Feral Sparky jumps in the chat and says hello. Welcome in, Feral Sparky. Awaken says, hey, just stopping in to say hello. Welcome in. Starshine wants to know if there's any tech releases I'm looking forward to. Right now, I'm looking forward to the Galaxy S23 smartphone, which is released February 17th, and I should receive it on February 17th. I have no complaints with my S22, but I mean, the S23 should be better in some way. I don't know. Maybe better battery life, maybe a faster processor. It might be more responsive. So I will transfer everything with the Samsung Switch software to the new S23 and move my SIM card over and familiarize myself with it. In all likelihood, just like the S21 and the S20 before that and the S10, each phone has been a nice improvement, although the S20, was it the S20 to the S21 didn't really seem to make much difference one way or the other. The S22 was a nice improvement, and I'm hoping the S23 will also be a nice improvement, especially on the camera. Although the really good camera's on the Ultra, and I don't want anything that large. But regardless, the cameras, the technology of the cameras in smartphones now is outpacing the professional photography equipment I've got. They've got a lot of AI they're using now for automatic light adjustment and focusing and image quality that's just blowing my mind. I think it might just be a matter of time before I'm using a smartphone on a tripod for a better image quality than what I'm getting out of these camcorders, which is a scary concept. But the developers, the manufacturers are putting so much research and development into this micro technology for these cameras on phones. I think they're going much further and much faster than the camera manufacturers' own research and development with professional cameras. It seems like it's sooner rather than later, it's going to outpace quality and versatility in a little tiny smartphone versus a giant camcorder. You watch, you'll see. What did the S23 cost? Amazon's got them on pre-order for $799 for the 128 gig model, and they'll bump you to 256 gigs for free and give you a $50 Amazon gift card. I think it's a great deal. Yeah, I want to say $799 if I'm not mistaken. Patrick says the Samsung S22 will continue updates for the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah, that's fine. I don't have any complaints with the S22. I just want the S23, just because. Bob R. wants to know if a stock Intel cooler will work okay with an i5 11600K, or is it better to use a tower cooler? Well, an 11600K doesn't come with a cooler. There is no stock cooler. So you'd be using a cooler from some other model of processor which wasn't designed to cool the 11600K. Now, will it keep it cool? That kind of depends on how you use it. If you're somebody that's really hammering your computer a lot with high intensity CPU tasks, it's probably going to get loud more than anything. Will it overheat? Maybe. If, on the other hand, you're mostly watching YouTube videos and browsing the web, you likely aren't very much using many resources of the CPU. I would personally use a Scythe Mugen 5. Very easy to install. It'll definitely keep it cool no matter how you use the machine. But with regards to a stock cooler, it would just sort of depend on which stock cooler and how you use the CPU. So maybe. Might be fine, might not be fine. Awaken said, I think Scythe has a black version of the Mugen 5. Oh, for sure. I installed 20 or 30 of those just last year, the black edition. Providence Law says, Carrie, have you heard about the Aries game power supply situation? False advertising, what's your opinion on them? I'm assuming you're talking about the news from over a year ago that's no longer news anymore. That's all been addressed. So unless sometimes people watch content, they don't realize they're watching content that's old, that companies have already addressed whatever that content was about. So unless this is something new, the only thing I'm aware of from Aries game was the power efficiency rating being a bit exaggerated. It had nothing to do with the reliability of the power supply. There was nothing dangerous. It was very much a nitpick from the elitist type who, want to verify if these claims are accurate. In other words, they want to verify, does it actually put out the voltage, or the wattage rather, that it says? Does it actually have the power efficiency rating that it says? Most ordinary users, 99.9% of all computer users who buy power supplies won't know the difference if the power supply is putting out less wattage or isn't actually at the efficiency rating they claim. It's a non-issue. It's almost like unnecessary drama trying to make something out of nothing. Now, I do agree that, advertising should be truthful, but an exaggeration over power efficiency rating. Look, when you're buying a budget power supply and you're expecting it to be rated along a name brand power supply that costs twice as much money, I think the problem is the user. I think you have unrealistic expectations if you believe you're getting the same equivalent power supply at a fraction of the cost. You're not. This industry, you do get what you pay for. So adjust your expectations and your tolerance based on how much you're spending. If I buy a brand new BMW or brand new Mercedes, I expect more in how I'm treated. I expect more in the reliability of the car than if I buy some, Nissan or Honda at the dealer. If I'm buying a car at half the price, my expectations go down with what's acceptable to me to tolerate. The more money I spend, the less tolerant I am to put up with problems or to put up with any sort of being ignored at the dealership, not getting the service that I'm paying for. So the amount of money you spend goes hand in hand with having realistic expectations. The people who spend the most are typically the most demanding, and they get answered to, because if that customer takes their business somewhere else, that's a lot of money the company loses from one customer. But if what you're selling is bargain basement stuff and there's very little profit in it, you don't care if the customer's ticked off. Too bad, go somewhere else. We don't have time for it. There's not enough money in it to put up with it, and you're just a number to them. It's about selling quantity over quality. But it doesn't make the power supply dangerous, and it doesn't make the power supply an unwise buy. It's about adjusting your expectations. If I go to McDonald's, I'm not going to expect a steakhouse experience. I think it would be on me. Like, I don't think it would be a problem with McDonald's. I think it's a problem with the customer. You're not being realistic. So overall, if that's the controversy you're talking about, I just think it's completely nonsense. Who cares? If it's a safety issue, the power supplies are catching fire, different story. But we're just talking about an efficiency rating. Yeah, who cares? If you care, spend more money and get a better brand. Carlos wants to know, what's my experience on a 70 megabit down, 7 up internet plan? Is that good for gaming and streaming on mobile for one person? Maybe. It depends how long your streams are, at what resolution, and how strong your signal is, and how much bandwidth you're getting for that. Typically on mobile plans, you're limited to the amount of bandwidth. The higher the resolution and the longer your videos are, the more bandwidth you consume. In my case, a mobile plan, I will run out of bandwidth after 2 videos. So there'd be no way for me to make videos for the rest of the month unless I gave the mobile provider more money. It was getting very, very expensive. It was costing me upwards of $70 every 2 shows to pay for the mobile bandwidth. Now, a lot of times what they'll do is they say, well, you get this much high speed, but they don't cut you off entirely. What they do is they cut your bandwidth to a fraction of the speed, which then makes it completely unusable for streaming. So at the end of the day, is 7 enough? It might be. There's a lot of variables there. It also might not be. Dwayne says, I'm trying to order this PC. I can only get the $299.99 price down to $239.96 with the 20% off. It was a 40%. Wasn't it a 40%? Did they change it? They might have just changed it. Let me just take a quick look here. It's $40. I don't know where your 20% off is coming from. There's $40 off is what the coupon code should be. Or not the coupon code. There's a coupon checkbox. So if it's $299.95 and you check the box, let me go back to my screen capture here. So again, I would use the link that I posted in the video description below this video. So it'll take you to this page. And you'll see that's $299.95. We check this box right here that says apply a $40 coupon. Now at this point, I would have to sign in, which then exposes all my private information, so I'm not going to. Then I'm going to go to the cart and I'm going to check out, proceed to checkout. And there's an option to put the discount code in. You put in Carrie Holzman, and then that takes it, should take the price down from that point. So hopefully that clears up any confusion. that price is a limited time. I know that the Kerry Holzman coupon part of it is only good until this Wednesday, the 15th of February. Ben said he got the final price with coupon and the Kerry Holzman discount at $216. Well, that depends on what your sales tax is. Shamim said, I recently did a checkup with Crystal Disk Info and my Samsung SATA SSD 870 EVO appears as 70% good. What can I do to fix the errors? There is no fixing. There are no errors. The drive will wear out over time. 70%, that drive is beautiful. It's in perfect condition. I'd recommend that you don't run software looking for problems when you're not having any problems, or you will end up creating problems that could be very, very expensive to fix. The best advice I have for you is to use your computer, not just run benchmarks and tests on it trying to find something wrong with it. Because if you look hard enough, you can make your own problems in that process if that's what you're out to do. 70% sounds 100% perfect to me. I don't see anything you need to be concerned about there. Likely that drive's still, at the rate you're using it, it's already a few years old and it's only at 70%. That's fantastic. Nothing to fix. Everything's working just like it should and probably will continue to do so for the next 10 years. Bob R said, sales tax added, I got it for $215. I'll tell you what, Bob, it's a bargain. It's an absolute bargain. All right, guys, I guess that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks, you guys, for hanging out with me. As always, I do live videos every Friday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. That's a regular schedule. You don't need notifications. It's always every Friday, always at 1 p.m. Phoenix time. Now, 1 p.m. Phoenix time is currently 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. When daylight saving time takes effect in the spring, then everything shifts an hour, but Phoenix doesn't change. I'm always 1 p.m. Phoenix time on Fridays. Mondays, we do members only broadcasts. Those are videos that are never made public. And it's for the folks you see that have the little badge next to their name with a number on it. Those folks are invited to join me on exclusive members only videos where we have a much smaller turnout, just maybe a few dozen viewers at most. So it's a bit more intimate in that we can sort of relax and discuss things I would not normally discuss on a public video for security reasons or just because it's not appropriate. But for my friends that are helping to support the channel, this is something I do for them. And that's every Monday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. As for Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, it varies from week to week because I work as a computer technician. That's my bread and butter. And I do not do YouTube full-time, although I'm doing it more than I have. Lately, it hasn't been the case because my customers have been calling from out of the blue. They're suddenly starting to call again. And I always prioritize real-world customers versus YouTube content, except in the case of Mondays at 1 o'clock for my members only, and Fridays at 1 o'clock for the general public. As time permits, depending on the workload of the week, sometimes I make videos on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Very rarely do I do a video on the weekend. I'm trying to take the weekends off. I've been suffering a little bit of burnout from just taking on too much. And it's just not a good mental place for me to be. So the time away is essentially me recuperating and recharging, but it's also, I'm not sitting around doing nothing. I generally, the time is being rationed accordingly, depending on what the needs are for that week. So there'll be times where I might broadcast every day for, each day for a whole week. And there'll be times where there's only a show on Friday and Monday. That's just part of being a real working computer technician. I don't know when the phone's going to ring and when clients necessarily need me. So I always have to be available to my clients when they call. So that's why the pattern is what it is. So at the very least, Fridays at 1 o'clock. And it's been this way now for, about 2 years. Been doing videos live every Friday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. So you can always catch me then. Thanks you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for all the contributions. Barry Russ, Sue Cool, Michael Dane, Alan Lindos, Tom Jackson and Bob R., as well as Kevin Crowley and Patrick Manny and Jamie McGregor, who've continued to extend their memberships. Josiah Guernsey as well. Thank you to Planet Cryos, Alahaj Depej and Chris Johnson also extending their memberships. Our good friend Buster, Peter Laycock, thank you for your generosity and your support. Matthew Burden and Chris Garrett also extending their memberships. Your memberships mean a lot to me. They help keep me independent and enable me the financial means to buy equipment to review and show to introduce to you guys. In this case, the folks at KAMRUI, for full disclosure, sent the computer to me for free. They're not paying me anything to make the content. If you use my Amazon link to make a purchase in Amazon, I make a small commission from Amazon. It does not affect the price you pay or the shipping. It's no effect on you at all. I don't know who's making purchases, so you're completely anonymous. I can only see what was purchased and what my commission was for that item. I have no indication as to who purchased it. So it's a nice anonymous way to support this channel, while at the same time, you're still paying the same prices for the things at Amazon. As long as my link took you to Amazon, any purchase you make on that browser visit, I will make a small commission from, and those commissions do add up. And so with that, along with memberships, it's enabling me to continue making more videos than I would make otherwise if I don't have the means to pay for all this stuff that I show off. And every once in a while I get lucky with a company like KAMRUI or Ace Magician or the folks over at B-Link or at Minis Forums who've sent me some PCs to introduce to you guys and to evaluate. And so I certainly appreciate their support in that, but it doesn't pay any bills. It's just there for content. So that's kind of the way this whole thing's been working for me. And it's with your help that I'm able to make more content more often. Thank you guys for being a part of this community, which is far more amazing than any content I make. And thank you for being kind, not only to me, but to each other. I will look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Have a safe, happy weekend. Those of us here in the US, Super Bowl is on Sunday. So I suppose a lot of people will be watching that. I don't know if I'm watching it or not, but be doing a lot of cooking. So that'll be fun. And then hopefully I'll be able to make some more cooking videos on the Cooking with Carrie channel, which I've sort of abandoned for the last couple of years. I definitely want to get into doing more cooking videos as I need some variety to just this tech content. So be sure and check out my other channels if you haven't seen them. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you all very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.